So today we've got Vas Joseph. Just to quickly go through his profile and who it is, I'm going to after later on give it to him to explain. He is the founder of PinkPanster, which is a marketing and management agency. They've been around for years, and they do an awesome job out there. He's also the co-founder of Freyia Labs, and this is the main his main company that we're going to focus today, which Freyia Labs is a mother brand of several other brands that he has, such as Fungi Fungus, Gaia Works. We've got Fire Alchemy and many more. So basically, they run farming and natural growth and production in their laboratory in different categories, which different categories are their different brands. Also, he was the production manager at MindGeek, which is one of the major adult entertainment companies in Nicosia. He was directing a team of executive, which under them, they were directing 500 plus people. So he's no longer works there, but that's one of the big things in his portfolio. Yeah, so Vas, you want to go ahead and tell our audience who you are?
So I'm Vas. I'm a simple guy who does complicated things, I guess. I always like to explore opportunities and do something innovative. So yeah, my route brought me down to here. I've always worked as a marketeer or management member of a team. Obviously, MindGeek was a great experience for me until it led me up to the point where I opened my own marketing company, which I run for many, many years. We had a team, we did a lot of things together until I had a little unfortunate event with a car, which left me to have to close the company for a year and think while recovering what I'm going to do, how I'm going to move forward, and how am I going to get up on my feet again. And during that time, I thought about one of my passions, and that was mushroom farming. So when I was able to walk again after that terrible accident, I started pushing it. And that just happened right before the first outbreak of Corona, which kind of kept us indoors. And during that time, I developed everything that I had to do to build this mushroom brand and learn everything about it. We built our labs during that time, our grow spaces. We made contacts all over the world, had amazing mentorship and training. And that's basically what brought me to this point. But I am a mycologist, I would say, but I'm actually a marketeer doing something I'm passionate, which is also mushrooms. So that's that in a nutshell. Yeah.
That's awesome. Vas has like his experience and life story is fascinating, and it was around a month ago that I was talking to him. We were having a walk on the beach about talking about different things, and he just told me a little bit of like a snippet of his life story, and I was like, I am bringing you on the show. Like there is no way that this story is not being told to public. This is fascinating. And before we get into the interview, I want to remind everybody that you are more than welcome to ask any questions in the chat. And if I like, I will see the questions, and if I see it's fit to the conversation that we're talking about, then I'm gonna ask you a question right on the spot. If not, then we have a Q&A at the end of the event. And yes, sometimes I turn green. I don't know why. So George,
Yeah, you went Hulk on us right now.
I'm green again. Okay, let me see.
Yeah, you went green.
Right. So let's get started, and I'll figure out what's happening with my screen.
Of course, of course.
Yeah. So there's a question that I always ask all my audience, and for let's say George is in our audience now, which was a previous speaker.
Hey, George.
He will remember this question. is I ask everyone on my show, what was the first entrepreneurial moment of your life? When was the first, like, you felt like you've done something entrepreneurial? It doesn't matter
Mm,
how young you were, or it doesn't matter how small it was, just the first time that happened to your life.
that's an interesting question. I guess I was always like this. I was always thinking of opportunities and trying to do something myself. So the first one, it's very difficult for me to say what the first one was, but I can tell you that one that was incredibly important to me was, as soon as I finished my master's in marketing, I won an opportunity to do something similar to an MBA with the East Midlands, and they offered a training for entrepreneurs. So I got the opportunity. It was only 10 spots that year. So I won that opportunity and managed to work with a team of startup specialists with the university. It's the Business School of Nottingham. And that was a huge, huge entrepreneurial opportunity that I had. So they helped me build the plan, make contacts and whatnot. But I guess if we take it even further back, selling lemonade or something in the street, that probably was it.
So in what age what you felt like you started to operate more professionally? Which age was that?
I was studying while volunteering um, and working in different jobs. So I was still in school when I was working in the summer. I could say I definitely was 15, 16 years old when I started working. So I didn't need to, but I definitely wanted to. And it was a drive that I had to do it. So yeah, definitely at that age.
That's pretty young for normally out there, because until people finish with the uni and everything, that's
Nah,
24
I
plus.
was pushing way before that. During my summers, I would work and, try to get into society like that.
Awesome, interesting. And obviously in PinkPanster, you're more involved in tech, and in Freyia Labs, you're more involved in mushrooms. So what drove you to tech and then into farming mushrooms, or is it vice versa?
Well, I was doing mushrooms since I was in school. So it was always a hobby that I had. So it definitely wasn't tech before cultivating mushrooms. So I've always had a bit of a green thumb, always gardened flowers and the vegetables and whatnot. And when I was much younger, I just got fascinated with the world of fungi and did it myself at home. I had a book that I picked up from Paul Stamets. He's the godfather of modern mycology. And I was reading it. It was super geeky for me to do, but I definitely did it. I mean, that was at the start of the internet. So it was literally books for me. So I was reading this book and I said, this is something I would love to do. And I did it. And it wasn't like, just go around the corner and pick up some supplies. I literally had to think outside the box and invent stuff. So I started doing that when I was much younger. And I kept on doing it as a hobby for many, many years until the tech world started taking over. And then when you start getting involved in that, a day becomes 24 hours of nonstop tech, and you start focusing on that much more. So yeah, tech definitely came after mycology and then is slowly taking over. Although I'm still running PinkPanster, I'm simultaneously doing this.
So how come mushrooms? Like, what happened? How did you find that out? Like when you were a teenager?
Yeah, it was from
Like
the
that's
book.
not something you see out
No,
there
it's
often.
not. It's not. It was from reading the book. So I saw the book. I really enjoyed what I saw. And I always do things that are out of norm. I just think of something and the next day I'll do it. And that's, I've always had that as a kid. So I started doing archery. How did I think of doing archery? This is a hobby that I enjoyed for many, many years before I had my injury. I said, okay, archery seems like a nice thing. Picked up the, information, found out where they practice, went myself and said, I want to do this today. And that's how I started archery. So that's exactly how I do it. So in the Mycology book is this one, and it's literally falling apart. It's so old.
That looks really old.
Yeah, it's so old that they have a special section with colored pictures because everything is
black and white.
Black and white. They put it, you see that? That's how old this is.
Oh, wow.
It's the first edition.
So he's the godfather of...
Yes, yeah. Anybody who wants to find out about mycology, Paul Stamets is literally the person who is the godfather of modern mycology. He's really pushing the envelope. He's changing the world, and there's a whole movement which he's pushing forward, and we're all following, or we're building on top of what he's actually created.
Okay. I was gonna, so just to tell our audience how our interview is gonna go, first we always start with the speaker's background. So to get to know the person better, because the way that someone stay in our brain and has an effect on our day-to-day life is by telling or by knowing their stories. So that's how we start our let's say events, and then we get technical into the industry the speaker is, which in this case is farming mushroom and high-tech farming, sorry. So I want to, since Vas has a fascinating story and I personally really enjoyed when he told me, I'm going to get in more into it. But in the second half of our event, we're going to go into farming mushrooms and learn more about what's going on out there, which is growing massively. So tell us about MindGeek, right? You were, as I remember, you were telling me you were the first people on the team that grew the project into something that is happening in Cyprus right now. First of all, tell our audience what MindGeek is, and then.
So MindGeek is an adult entertainment company. It is one of the largest in the world, with some of the most significant brands out there. We all know adult entertainment. It's mostly online that they deal with, although they do have other brands that deal with offline as well. But they are colossal giants and incredible powerhouses. They were able to convert traffic from tube sites before YouTube was able to convert that traffic into money. They are innovative in their field. They really, really drive it. And I was very lucky to be part of that for at least 7 years. Truly, truly incredible opportunity to be able to manage their assets and to learn from them, because the internet exists because of adult and a few other products, but adult really drives the online market and the reason the internet is such a success. I mean, it sounds funny, but it is true.
It was from when you're with this that you're talking about is from years and years and years ago. Before it was almost close to the .com boom. That's the period you're talking about, right?
Yeah, so basically, MindGeek was a Canadian brand, a Canadian company, but they have offices all over the world. They opened in Cyprus to expand, like many companies, within this haven. And there were 5 people that were initially hired. And I was hired by the first employee of the company, Tony. I met him accidentally at the gym, funny enough. And I was working at Coca-Cola at that time. It was also a great experience, but it really wasn't me because of the product, the philosophy. I mean, I was a junior marketing manager at that time at Coca-Cola, and wasn't really happy because of the product itself. I'm not saying the company's bad, because the company, that's also a fascinating opportunity. So I was going to the gym, met up with this awesome guy from Canada, an Italian Canadian called Tony, and we just became friends. He never told me what he did. He just told me he worked for a tech company. So I was like, okay, and was talking to him, and yeah, I was telling him I wasn't happy, sent out my CV, and it landed in his lap. So Tony called me and he said, "Hey, Vas, it's Tony from the gym. I just got your CV." And he says, "I didn't know you were looking for a job. Do you know what we do?" And I said, "No." And he says, "It's all good. Come in, you're hired anyway." Because he already knew me. He had interviewed me so many times during our workouts. So he didn't really need to interview me because he knew who I was. And went in and he explained to me that what they do is adults. And I said, okay, that's new to me. But I was definitely up for the opportunity and I took it. Obviously, I wasn't a product manager when I first got it. We went in, we were 5 people. We were trying to put everything together and we were doing a lot of admin and content. So we actually did a lot of content and we were working on a brand called Bonus Vids at the time, and we did a bit of Pornhub as well. So we started working on that, and as Cyprus became more significant or in their global presence, I became a production manager. So I had my own team where we managed all the production, post-production, admin, and all the technical sides of running the website. So from an entertainment point of view, not the building the websites. And that's when we exploded in growth and I got my promotion as a product manager. Now, a product manager basically is somebody who's responsible between the C-suite, the directors of the company, and the rest of the company. So I was given 7 of their flagship companies. I was doing exclusive pay sites for their premium brands, which were their flagship brands. Brazzers, Morphos, Twisties, and Babes were some of the brands that I worked with. If anybody knows adult, they know those names. So I was responsible for growing them, documenting everything, analyzing, forecasting, and planning while running what they were doing. So obviously it's an American system. You don't actually talk to everybody because the team is about 500 people. There are 7 managers that I had to deal with and my web analysts who were local. And it was a chain of command. It was an incredible experience. We had budgets that I've never seen before, such a huge budget for marketing. And I had run marketing projects and production for many years before that. So when I saw that, the numbers were just astronomical. It was incredible, running promotions for $1 million a week and campaigns and what we were producing and how we were doing it. It was fascinating. So yeah, that was my experience in
if it was that fascinating, then why did you move to PinkPanster? Why did you say, okay, I'm going to quit from MindGig and adult industry? and get into my own brand? Was it the moment that you
Okay.
wanted to kind
So
of double down on your own operations?
yeah, definitely, definitely. So these kind of companies, these colossal companies, have a huge turnover. I was already mature in there. A lot of people go in and out much faster than what I did. I just started there. I was one of the founding members in Cyprus. So I stuck because I was getting those promotions and it was great. It was incredibly exhausting. Not that I didn't fight it out, but my days were literally nonstop, including the weekend. So I didn't really have a life. And I mean that in a positive way, because at that time it was an incredible experience. So yeah, it started getting to me. Then I started thinking, well, I'm always growing somebody else's business. Why don't I do something for myself? Why don't I create something? So that was always in the back of my mind. I always have this. So kept on thinking about that. And at the end, we had some clash of management styles. And I said, okay, it's time to do it. And I made the move. So I opened my own company. And it was simple. It was just go and do it. Yeah.
And yeah, like when I met you the first time years ago, you were just doing PinkPanster.
Yeah.
And how did you come up with the name, like PinkPanster?
PinkPanster. Yeah, PinkPanster is a funny name. So I wore some pink trousers, which is the last part of the name, the panster. And I did it on a dare to wear pink trousers during work. I used to do a lot of things like that. And I did it just to see people's reaction. I always like to challenge people. So that was something I did. I mean, I don't wear pink trousers, but I did it. So I went to work wearing pink trousers and waited to see people's reaction. And people never reacted. They always kind of saw me and knew I was a bit playful and a bit eccentric in the way I was there, until they started calling me the PinkPanster. And when I left, that's what I called the company.
That's awesome. Cool. So obviously you worked for years in PinkPanster and you had a successful story there. But then you told me about your car accident and some epiphanies that you had. So
Yeah.
how did that change your life?
Okay.
What did you realize from that accident?
Yeah, I really, it was a really difficult time for me. So I had, I'm really grateful that I had the support of my partner to help me through that. So I'm just going to put that out there right now. I really appreciate that. If it wasn't for her, I'd be dead. So here's the thing. When you go through something really severe, like almost being paralyzed and stuck in bed for almost 6 months, you start thinking about your life because you don't really have anything else to do. You're stuck in bed, you're looking at the ceiling, you're scared about tomorrow, and you're wondering what life is. I mean, I'm being all dramatic, but it really was difficult. So I went through a lot of pain. I went through a lot of recovery. And I said to myself, you know, what's going on here? What am I doing? I mean, am I really living? So yeah, that was this epiphany that came out of being there. And I thought about it, and it made me want to do something real to make a huge difference. Because yes, marketing is creating. Running a marketing agency, I'm always creating for somebody else. So I wanted to create for me and to change the world with what I do. So I started growing mushrooms. And mushrooms, surprisingly, have an enormous power and can change the world and are changing the world. They actually made the world we live in today. And I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to bring it out. So mushrooms can feed us. They can heal us. They can dress us. We can build using mushrooms. We can save the environment with mushrooms. And that's what I really got out of it. So when I sat there, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to grow mushrooms, and it will change the world. It will change my life. And yeah, I'm doing it. And I'm using my agency to help me grow. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you had an epiphany that,
Yeah.
yeah, you told me about that. Yeah, that was fascinating. And so what I admire about you, Vas, and I just paused a bit because I had to, think how to take that flow and take it onwards. What I admire about you is your passion, right? You've got a very strong passion in what you're doing. And I want you to tell our audience, like, how can they follow their own passion professionally? Like, they're passionate about something, but they're not even monetizing it. They're not even thinking about monetizing it. How can you take your passion and then spend your time on it and monetize it?
Okay. So I always have this really simple philosophy. If you like what you're doing, if you have an idea, you should do it. It isn't complicated. You shouldn't overcomplicate things. You should just go into what you want to do and just start it. When you sit down and analyze something and overthink it and overplan it and overcomplicate everything, you end up in kind of a paralysis situation. And we've all had them. I don't know. When I was younger, I was coming up with 1,000 ideas a week. And out of those 1,000 ideas, 100 of them would materialize into something tangible on paper. So all the training I got when I was doing the entrepreneurs training was, you got to sit down and put a business plan and, check everything. And when I did my marketing agency and I ran other people's campaigns and saw how they were running their food and beverage companies and whatnot, I realized something. The best solution is to not overanalyze it. It's just to go out and do it. Do whatever you're doing and start writing it while you're doing it. So, and when I mean writing it, it's just like writing a business plan, putting things down on paper. So, you're back. No longer green.
It was a software. It was a software problem.
Is it? Did you update? Is it okay?
It's fine, yeah.
So with Freyia Labs, I didn't even come up with the names until much later because the packaging of the product wasn't important. The philosophy was inside me, but the product was important. So I focused to educate myself and to perfect what I was doing. And I knuckled down and did what I needed to do to get it out there. So I didn't sit down and say, what were my colors? What was my philosophy? What packaging am I going to use? What is my name? I didn't care about that. What I cared about was what I was doing. So my advice is, if you want to do something, do it, and you can deal with the details later. Because by doing it, you'll learn more about what you're doing. And you'll know. It's simple as that.
It's interesting how this is the same realization I had before as well, because when I started, let's say, my entrepreneurship journey, like, I would get stuck at finding names and logos and colors and try to perfect the thing because I thought, let's say, launching a Google size of now,
Yeah.
and I need to be as prestigious as those brands. What I realized after years and years of trying and error and failing and growing and all that is that no one really cares how you start, and they know that you just got started. And what matters is you got to get as much as feedback as fast as possible. In other words, you see it out there in social media as they say you got to fail as soon as possible, as many as possible. So that means you got to fail and get feedback of why you failed. And if you
Yeah,
just stall that, then these failures going to pile up and bite you later on. And that bite could be big enough to kill the whole operation.
yeah. Failures are some of the biggest lessons and teachers you can ever have. I actually, I don't remember where I heard it. There was a company that was only hiring people or was it an investor that was only investing or hiring people which had failures underneath their belt. So yeah, failures are teachers.
All right. I think everyone kind of understood who Vas is. They have a very clear image of who you are, and I'm glad because you shifted industries, you shifted operation, you shifted markets. It's unbelievable, and you landed on something that many people would find very basic, like farming. Really, like tech farming.
Yeah,
Now I want to get into that topic and show how vast this market is and how much potential it has for
definitely.
the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years. So before we get into the markets and stuff, I want to talk about farming mushrooms, right? So can you quickly, very quick, in a couple of minutes, tell our audience how you grow your mushroom?
Okay, definitely. So there's two ways of growing mushrooms. I'm using a natural, organic tech method. Okay. There's also completely organic methods, but you need to be in a country which supports it. So in short, we have a facility, our lab, which is sterile and controlled. Within this lab, we're able to grow the genetics and expand our mushroom cultures. So the mycelium is what we breed there. And mycelium is the root of the mushrooms. So the white fungus, the mold, as people would call it. So we grow that in our lab. There are a few stages which that mycelium goes through until it develops a mushroom. So the mushroom is the colloquial term of the fruiting body. That is the sexual organs of the fungus. The only reason the mushroom produces that is because it wants to spread its spores. So the fungus is actually what's doing most its work. So in our lab, we grow primary mushrooms. So they decay matter themselves. They don't need it to be already decayed. So it could be wood, it could be straw, it could be grains, it could be anything. So we grow our culture and then we move it to bulk substrates. Our substrates are hemp. We use organic hemp instead of anything else. And then we move it to the fruiting chambers. The fruiting chambers, or the fruiting room, is a controlled environment which we can regulate our temperature, our lights, and our humidity. So that's where the tech comes in. The tech comes in because we're using programs and machines to help us regulate this environment. And when this environment is ideal, the fruiting body of the mushroom will develop, and then we'll go in and harvest it. So that's very short how we do it and what we do.
Cool. And you kind of touch upon the technologies that you use, but can you a bit expand on what technologies you use to control what programs you use, and what, if you're not using it, how much, let's say, time can be wasted?
Yeah, okay. So some of the stuff that I brought in from my previous knowledge is my data collection. We have Excel sheets where we are tracking everything we do. We have all our genetics, all our species down. We track our customers, so we have our CRM, we have our provider. So we're using our technology to monitor and regulate everything. Now, let's go into the mechanical aspect of things. Most mushrooms require very high humidity to grow. So, by the way, most of the stuff that I'm telling you, I made it myself during quarantine. Because we're in Cyprus, it's not easy to get anything from abroad. And during quarantine, we had nothing. So it's not like going down the road and getting yourself a humidifying system. I literally built that myself using blueprints and my understanding of how they work. So it is incredibly technical, but it's kind of ghetto as well. I created a little sensor which reads humidity. This sensor is wired into our humidity generator. Our humidity generator is basically a barrel with ultrasonic humidifiers inside it and a fan system. So it's a vortex fan in ducking. And whenever that sensor tells the ultrasonic humidifier in the fan that the humidity is too low, it will kick in. So I try to keep my chambers at above 90% humidity. What does that mean? It means that you walk into a room and you literally see a cloud. It is a cold mist coming through the ducting, which looks like a cloud. There's the most mystical experience you can have.
Like a movie.
So you walk into a room with blue lights because you want to simulate autumn, and you see shadows in the fog of mushrooms. It is so fascinating. So our lights have the spectrum that's needed to stimulate their growth. Mushrooms do not require light to grow, but it's an indicator of season and which direction to go up. Fresh air is absolutely necessary because mushrooms, the fruiting bodies, want to feel fresh air so they know they're outside of the bottom, the floor of the forest. When they feel fresh air, they know they're high enough to drop their spores and they're going to fly with the wind. So you want that flow of the wind. And the fog, it's autumn, it's spring. It's also kind of emulating or simulating a forest. So we created that artificially. It is, yeah, it's really special.
You created that in Cyprus in quarantine.
Yeah.
Nothing
I created this in Cyprus during a time where they weren't shipping anything to Cyprus and everything was closed. So I had the luxury and time to do it because we were stuck at home. You know, when you're stuck at home and everything is failing, my philosophy is do something else. And I already had this epiphany that I wanted to do it. So I did it. And that was, I was working on that. That was my direction. So it just happened. It was a coincidence. I guess it was a beneficial one because it really anchored me home to say, work on this, build the labs, build the rooms.
If I ask you one single point that you're fascinated about mushrooms, what is that one point, one thing that you're really fascinated about mushrooms? What would you answer?
Mushrooms, for me, are very resilient. They're almost immortal. So the mushroom itself, you can cut a section of the mushroom and it will survive hostile conditions and create itself again. it's like myself cutting off my finger and growing another me, not another finger. That's how special mushrooms are. Another thing that's really fascinating about them, the world we live in now would not exist without them, because it's the mushrooms which connect everything. The mycelium network throughout our whole world is what brings it together. It spreads nutrients. Forests can even communicate through the network. So the mushroom itself is fascinating. Not even needing to say what it can do for us as human beings, just the mushroom in itself.
Wow. Fascinating. Since the time that I'm, talking to you more for the past few months, like I'm fascinated by mushrooms. The more I research, the more I wow
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
It's incredible, and also the health benefits that it has on us. So tell us more about, because I know in your laboratory you're growing edible and gourmet mushrooms. You also growing medical mushrooms. So tell
Yeah.
us more about the edible. Like, what kind of mushrooms are they, and what can you do with them with food?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So these are a few of our mushrooms. We've got some oysters here. There's another one. And some shiitake. And here we've got some more Freyia oysters. These are white shimeji, and these are king oysters native to Cyprus. So they're protected in Cyprus. They're called anaphriga mushrooms. And these are some of our mushrooms that we have available. So we grow all of these and many, many more. So the edible mushrooms, something very important to say, we are trying to stand out in the market, and we're doing that not because we're doing it as a competitive advantage. It's something we believe in ourselves, something I personally am very passionate. I don't want to put anything inside my body which is not healthy, not grown safely, and dangerous to the environment. Mushrooms have a low impact. So the energy it takes to grow a mushroom is very low in comparison to any other protein. The benefits we get from gourmet mushrooms are much, much higher than most food we will eat. So you're producing something using very little energy to have a very small footprint and have the maximum result for us. So in our labs, we grow Italian Pio Pino, Japanese shimeji, white ones, which we have here, and the brown ones. We have oysters, yellow, pink, and these gray ones. We have chestnut mushrooms. So for locals in Cyprus, I mean, I know that the people abroad will probably heard them, but for us in Cyprus, this is unheard of because we're used to what's being provided for us at the supermarkets. And what's being provided to us at the supermarkets is just a cash crop for industrial producers. So what they're doing is creating something which is just there to fill the gap, but they're not really growing the mushrooms. Why? Because these specialty mushrooms have to be eaten quickly. They're not easy in terms of logistics, and so putting them at the supermarket, it's difficult. When you grow a mushroom which is that big, it's going to take the whole shelf. So these manufacturers, they use industrial methods to grow it, where we're trying not to do that. We're trying to be organic. We're trying to not use any pesticides, any antibiotics, and we're using hemp and organic grains to grow it, which won't impact the environment negatively. So I'm not afraid to eat this, and I know what's going into me, which is a little different to what's out there right now at the supermarket. And we never import any of our mushrooms. Unfortunately, you'll see at the supermarket, some of the packaging says it came from Poland or something, which is absurd. Grow it here. Yeah.
And you just talk about the edible one, and what's even more fascinating is the medical mushrooms. So tell our audience a bit of what medical mushrooms you're growing. What is the future of mushrooms in medicine, and what health benefits can our audience get from it?
So a lot of the edible mushrooms, our gourmet mushrooms, have medical properties. So there's a line between what is purely medicinal mushroom and what is a gourmet mushroom. So our food, our gourmet, is actually medicine itself. But let's talk about strictly medicinal. We're growing reishi. Reishi is a polypore fungus. So most people who know about mushrooms know they have gills at the bottom. I'll show you. So that's a gill. A lot of the other medicinal mushrooms like reishi have pores inside them, and they have structures like wood. So they have this, they're either decomposers or symbiotic. So what these mushrooms do, they're adaptogens. They go into your body, they find what needs to change, what happened, what's negative, and they adapt to that condition. Reishi, for example, is the mushroom of immortality. It's nature's Xanax. It helps you calm down. It helps your health. It has anti-cancer properties. And that's just one mushroom, reishi. And then we have lion's mane. Lion's mane looks like a giant pom-pom ball. This is both a gourmet and a medicinal mushroom. It has the flavor of crab or lobster, and it has the texture as well. It looks like nothing you've ever seen before. It's white, a ball. And that helps with building neurons in the brains medicinally. So this field has been around for thousands of years in Chinese and traditional medicine, but the Western world is coming on board, and you're going to see a huge movement towards mushrooms and using these products for medicine. And most importantly, they have been tested scientifically, and there's evidence to show that what they were talking about so many years ago is a reality. How? Yeah, they knew something that we are still trying to figure out, and we have to prove it, but they knew it.
Some answers are just out there. Just have to find it.
Yeah.
So, as I recall, I might be wrong. As I recall, you told me you make some elixirs as well. And
yes.
Obviously, you've got other brands under Freyia Labs.
Yes.
So, kind of talk about the other brands and then the elixirs.
Okay. So one of our brands is Fire Alchemy. After I get it, I'm a gardener and I love plants. So the place was full of flowers and plants and whatever, and it was beautiful. And when I started getting involved with cultivation, I started getting fascinated more. And I said, what more can I do? So I went on a mini Holocaust and took out all the plants and replaced them with chilies. Right now, we've got about 150 chilies, and these are all organic. They're grown using seaweed, fertilizers, and Epsom salts, and very, very simple methods. We don't like spraying chemicals and whatnot. And I took all those chilies and fermented them and created our own chili sauces. So fungi fungus makes our mushrooms, and fire alchemy creates our organic chilies. Some of them, we bought them in through Lithuania. Shout out to all the Lithuanians who are listening. That's how we first started it out. And we created our fermented chilies. And now we have our own range of chili sauces. So we have chili bombs from Lithuania, habaneros, jalapenos, and many other chilies that we're growing. And we have created our range of chili sauces, which have been fermented for 6 months. You tried this one.
Not that one. I think I tried the other red one.
This one was out of stock, was it?
I'm not sure. It definitely didn't get that glass.
So this is one of our super hot chili sauces. I can't really eat it, but there are people who are fascinated with how powerful it is. So everything is following the same philosophy as Freyia Labs. We want to keep it simple. We want to keep it pure. We create a range of products where are pretty spicy. Yeah, I see that. I have one. It's pretty spicy. Yeah.
And what about Gaia Works? Left that one out.
That's another one. So we have, just to finish up with this, we have chili jams, chili salts, and chili sauces. So Gaia Works. Gaia Works is associated to our mushrooms. Gaia Works is very cutting edge, and we're working on a few of our products now, and it is a biofabrication brand. Now, what does biofabrication mean? Biofabrication means to use biology or something biological to fabricate objects. So mycelium has incredible properties. It's a binder, and the network grows throughout many substances. You can create, using mushrooms or mycelium, leather, building materials, and many, many, many other objects organically. You can literally grow a world. And this is really important in the world we live in right now, because we've reached a point where it looks like the system's collapsing. The viruses are rampant. We've polluted the ocean. We've polluted our atmosphere. Our food production and our way of living has destroyed and is destroying the world we live in. I mean, look,
we're running out of sand for building. We're running out of sand.
We are, yeah. Everything is. So mushrooms have the power to change it, and this is something we are working on. Gaia Labs was Gaia Works was why we actually first started all this. It has the power to change everything. So replacing polystyrene and plastic with something that can return back to Earth and not destroy Earth. Growing leather instead of murdering thousands and thousands of animals to harvest it. You can see how that can change the world. And we're working on a few projects right now and are planning to expand very shortly.
Also, these biofabrics are including building blocks as well. You can be using.
Yes, definitely.
Build a building with mushrooms.
Yeah. So if you've ever touched some of these polypore mushrooms, you can see they're hard. They're like wood. And when you combine it with other material, you create properties like fire retardation. They don't burn. They hold carbon inside them. They don't deteriorate in water. They have properties which are very useful for our life and can replace the harmful material that we're using.
Right. Let's keep the elixirs for if we have time at the end. Let's talk about your elixirs after. I want to get into more of a business model and industries and all that. So what is your business model around farming mushrooms? How do you make money?
So basically, at this time, we are a small provider of mushrooms. We're a small holding. So people sign up to us. They can go to our website and sign up to our waiting list.
Maria, can you bring it up, the screenshot, the screen? Let me make you yeah, go ahead, Vas.
Yeah, okay. So what we do is we like to get a bundle of mushrooms and create baskets and send them out to our subscribers. Our subscribers will get a collection of our different mushrooms. They get to try it. If they like something a lot, we can include it on their next order. So it's at this point, it's from our farm to your table. And it's a subscription base. There is a waiting list. Yep, there we go. So that's how we're making money from selling mushrooms. It's very personal. The relationship between us and our customer, there's no middlemen involved. There's no excess steps. You won't find us at the supermarket, but we'll find you where you are.
We'll find you. Yeah. If you find a box of mushrooms in front of your doorstep, that's from Vas.
Definitely. And be sure that they're organic, they're grown with love, and it's not something we wouldn't eat. We'll definitely eat them. Actually, we eat so many mushrooms. It's our primary diet.
Yeah.
I can't get bored of it.
Let's
There's
take
so much
the
to do
screen
with
out.
it.
Yeah, let's take this screen out here. Bring us back on this on the spot. There you go. So, where are we? So, tell us a bit about some of the opportunities in your field, because as I see some similarities between what happened to cannabis market back in 2017, 18, and ongoing. Apparently, it's growing even more now. I did a little bit of online research, and I realized that same thing is happening to mushrooms. So, what are the opportunities at the time being?
There is a revolution in the States and in psychology with active forms of mushrooms. So active forms of mushrooms are mushrooms which have psychedelic properties. Now, these are obviously illegal in most parts of the world and have been illegal for years. Before they became illegal, they were researched extensively by many professors, psychologists, and scientists, and then abruptly that came to an end. Now, obviously, just quote unquote, I'm not promoting people to use anything illegal, but the world is changing, and we can see how it's changing in America, because the America is leading the way. Cannabis right now is decriminalized, and we can see the boom in that industry. I guess it's an experiment that we are able to observe from afar what's happening to them. Economically, it has changed a lot. It's provided a lot of jobs. It's really changed the market there. And people are allowed to experience it both medicinally and recreationally. Now, obviously, there's a movement towards active forms of mushrooms to be decriminalized. I think yesterday, it was decriminalized in one part of America. So
I think
this
it was in
opened,
DC. He was in DC.
yes, exactly. So this opens the door for a lot of research in helping people psychologically, and the market is opening up for these opportunities. Now, the difference between the cannabis industry and the psychedelic mushrooms, and it's not only psychedelic mushrooms, it's psychedelics that they're moving towards, is the nature of the substance. Psychedelic substances aren't as light and as cannabis is. It's something severe to do. It's not just, you're going to have a very small experience. Obviously, they're microdosing them, which is a small experience, but it's not as soft, let's say, as cannabis. Now, the way the market is moving forward, I don't think big pharma and those big giant companies that move the market are going to allow it to fall into the hands of the majority like the cannabis industry did. There's already patents from incredible giants that are claiming the industry, and they're dominating it. So I think it's going to be a bit different the way the psychedelic industry is moving, unlike the medical cannabis or recreational cannabis. It's going to be very different, but it is changing the world. People are seeing huge benefits from it, and we'll see. It's something that we're going to have to see how it's going to change in the future.
So
exciting times.
It is. It's very exciting because a lot of things are changing, and we're seeing every year 2 or 3 or 4 markets just popping up and growing massively, and a lot of profit being made.
Yes.
The individual in each of those markets. And let's say for mushroom cultivation market, it is the size is around $16.2 billion back in 2019, and it's growing 4% consistently, and it's not going to stop. It's just going to increase again. So with this information in mind and this growth, where do you see, you touched upon it a little bit, but where do you see mushroom cultivation market, not only psychedelic, but mushroom cultivation market will end up in 5 years?
So more and more vegans and vegetarians are demanding better food. More people are turning towards that lifestyle. Mushrooms are an incredible source of proteins, fiber, vitamins, nutrients. You can actually have a varied diet and eat something that represents meat just from mushrooms. So as people start becoming a little bit more conscious about their activities, mushrooms are becoming part of it. The tech involved in mushrooms, so fabrication of substitute meat, uses mycelium as a scaffolding to create bacon, which is, there's no oink in it. It's literally
we saw that in I think the last season or this season of Shark Tank, that this company called Pans Mushrooms came on the stage, and they introduced, I think it was bacon, or they introduced it, and they didn't tell the sharks that it was mushrooms, and they were like enjoying it, and they thought it's meat, and they're like, the mushroom jerky, yeah, that's right, Pan's mushroom jerky, and then they revealed it is mushroom, and there was a fight between sharks. You don't see that in Shark Tank. There was a fight who gets to invest in that company, because they know exactly how much it grows for the next years, and how much it will get so famous and popular among the vegan and vegetarian.
We don't even need to create something new out of mushrooms to say they're fascinating. Some of the species that we sell and grow are fascinating in themselves. Every single mushroom has its own texture, flavor, and benefits. There's a whole world out there. So we don't even need to go as far as to say, we're creating high-tech food using mycelium and flavoring it and creating a substitute to chicken using, just eat the mushroom as it is. And you can get a replacement steak using one of our king oysters, let's say. You can get the texture of fish or lobster or a crab with our lion's mane. There is a really, really big, diverse range out there. And people are going to start understanding this. And we want to be part of that. We want to bring it to Cyprus.
So let's, since that we talked about all these opportunities, I'm 100% sure in our audience mind is like, they want to get started, they might think about it or have a little side project or side mini lab at their home or whatever. So how can someone with no experience get started in farming mushrooms? What are the initial costs? What are the requirements? And having said that, how can you do that in Cyprus?
Yeah, Cyprus is a hostile environment. We all know that we're here. We have cold winters and incredibly hot summers. This is not good for cultivating in the long run. We do have a short spring and autumn where we are filled with wild mushrooms, but it stops. So it's not as easy as somebody in the Philippines could do it. If you're in the Philippines, the environment is stable enough for you to get a shed and to grow them. So to do it in Cyprus, you would require a facility to do it. You would require to learn techniques that are used in labs, sterile techniques, and you would require to build yourself a chamber where you can regulate and control the environment. Now, one of our future projects and expansions is to help people do this. And we want people to do this. It's very easy for us to guide people and to develop their facilities and provide them with the material and spawn to grow their own mushrooms while we do the hard sterile work for them. So that's one of the options that we're planning on doing. We have a few projects like this in the future, but we're there to help and guide people.
That's awesome. So if you're thinking to get started, we'll be sharing soon after, a little bit after, Vas's email and his LinkedIn and all that, because we're transparent here, Vas. We share everything. So you can contact Vas and show your interest, and he can help you out and guide you on how you can start your own from a mini laboratory to bigger size. So since we have maybe 2 minutes, is there anything on the elixirs or?
Yeah, let me show you guys some of our stuff. So
cool.
I couldn't really take you to the lab, but I brought a bit of the lab here. So what you're looking at here is a jar filled with mycelium. So mycelium is the root structure of the mushrooms. And it's in here we have a grain. And this is Pio Pino. And what you can see is a filter system on top, which allows gas exchange. And the mushroom is growing. The mycelium is growing in here. So the grain provides the mycelium with nutrients so it can flourish. Now that's stage 2. Stage 1 is this. This here is a Petri dish. And this is a Petri dish. So if you've done chemistry or anything like that, you might recognize them. If you've seen some Hollywood films where they're testing for viruses and they're breeding cultures, this is it. So this is a sterile environment with a medium inside it, a nutritious jelly, which allows the mycelium. Do you see the rings? That is a culture of mycelium. So this jelly will be expanded to this. And from this, it will expand further to bulk. I'll show you some bulk now. I'm just going to go.
So apparently we can't see Vas's lab for 2 reasons. One is highly controlled environment, so you can't really get in without putting a protection suit and all that. And second, he's got some top secret top secret
So this is bulk. It is a bag with a pasteurized material inside it. We always use hemp, which we grow out this. So this provides this, the structure and the nutrients for the fruiting body to grow. And this will go inside our fruiting chamber. Obviously, different mushrooms, different species have different requirements. Some of them are in tubs, some of them are in bags. Some of them are sterilized, some of them are pasteurized. Really depends. Different species have different humidity, different temperatures, different requirements. So that bag right there will be the home for our mushrooms, and they will grow out of that with the techniques that we use to grow them.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
there is another one that we use. This is here. This is called liquid culture. It has a filter and it's a nutritional broth with a suspension of mycelium inside it. And yeah, it's really fascinating because mushrooms can actually survive floating in liquid. They can survive living for months on end inside a jelly. They can survive in a jar, and they keep expanding on and on and on until they finally produce that.
Ta-da! Which strain is that? That's the one that you just showed?
This is a king oyster, Anathrigas.
Okay.
And these are shiitake.
Mm-hmm.
These little, you see these sweethearts?
I've actually seen those turn into noodles. So instead of using...
No, there's a difference. This is, what you're talking about is enoki.
It was narrower though, but it was...
Yeah, those are enoki. These are shimeji. So we have summer enoki. We have a species of enoki, which is suitable for Cyprus. Those are winter mushrooms originally, so they're long. These are very similar, but they have a different texture and a different flavor. They're a bit bitter, but when you cook them well and you mix them with sauces, they're incredibly delicious.
You gotta send me some of those. I'm
Definitely.
waiting for it. All right, before we go to Q&A, I know we've got some questions on the chat as well. Anything else you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think mushrooms are going to change the world we live in. We're part of this movement, and we're really pushing to make a difference. And everybody should come and order. Definitely. That's you know, it's a request, it's a demand.